With the version now fully merged, we can export it and start building our version. But before that one, I'm just going to show a report that allow you to compare with previous version. So I can go in and say I want to compare against that one I merged out from, and then I want to see missing objects, and I can then go preview that one. So this one is all the objects that exist in that version, but not in the other one. And I only merged the base object, so there's a whole list of objects that are unique for this solution. And we're actually going to deal with those ones directly from the frog file. But this report is pretty nice. When you do the automatic merge, then you can go in and at the end, after all the automatic steps finishes, you can simply go in and run this report to figure out which one are the differences that needs to be dealt with manually afterwards. That's good for quoting, also for upgrade quoting. So, but let's build a database here. And the first thing I need to do is to actually extract the database in here. So this one is going to be a new database, 2009 R2, where I actually going to build this one. So this one I'll just create a new folder here. So the first thing in here from the Mergetool is we now have this text file in here, or we have this version that has been merged. And there's a few things in here. If I look at the objects right now, I was putting in a date and time when I merged, something about the version list and things like that one. And if I actually go look at the code in here, right now, I have an old date and time in here, and I have a version list that also refer to the wrong thing in here. If I look at the object card, I can see in here there's something here called new version list, new date, and new time. During the export, the last piece is actually getting done at that point, and that means putting in the version list and things like that one. It also means if the version list were calculated wrongly, for example, you don't have to remerge the object, you just have to run the process to actually restart the merging in here. So you can actually do that one. If I go to merge version and I say this one, recalculate object properties, it will actually recalculate that for all objects in here as you actually start the merge up here, as I did before. So, but my objects are right, so I go into export them in here. As you export objects from the Mergetool, there's a lot of options in here. And I'm just going to first of all move it to a different folder in here. So this one is where I want it. The substitute date and time is actually the one putting it in. The same about inserting the new version list. It's also possible to remove the modified line. So when you're releasing a version of an ISV solution, for example, you can actually do that by and also remove the line. There also is a renumber function. Now I'll show that in a later video. I can also remove some unused variables in here during the export also. But if I go down and see, this one is where it gets interesting for merging purposes. I can remove nav7 code conversion. nav7 forms are changed to page everywhere in the code, and I can actually put it back the other way. So I can take code from 7 or 2013 and move back to earlier versions. I can also remove 2009 specific code. That will be RDL data. It will be request pages and things like that one. So I can move code back to 5.0 from 2009. I can also remove the clusters in the key, and that means I can take code all the way back to 2.6 and earlier. I can of course also export with conversion for 2013. So even if I merged some code based on older versions of NAV, I can still export it and make it work for 2013 also. So, but I don't need any of that right now, so I just need to export my merged objects in here. So the other thing, now I can open my new database in here, and I can start building my version of SE for 2009 R2 in here. I'm still running on my developer license in here. The first thing I want to do is import all my new objects, the one that actually is not changed in here, because those ones I don't really want. Oops, that was not the folder. They're not really changed, so I'm going to just import those ones that say create out here to begin with. There's no reason I sit and deal with those ones manually in here, so I just need to import those ones. And they of course need it for me to be able to import the other ones and compile them in here. The next step is then to import my merged objects, and that's the one that is in a text file now. And as I start importing that one, it tells me my license is not allowed to create these fields in here because they are unique ISV fields, and I'm not allowed to do that one. So the normal option to solve that one is to then go and say, okay, I'm going to use a top file. Let's just copy this one because I'm going to need it again several times here. Open up that one, and I'll go in and say for all the tables where it's a merge in here, and I only need tables. I want to go ahead and merge the field, meaning all the new fields is going to be added into the existing object in here. Now it comes up with another error, and this actually is because it's tried to compile and the validation code makes this one fail in here. So I now have a problem. I can't merge the code in. My license don't allow me to do it. I can't import from text, so I'm stuck in this situation in here. The Mergetool has a function to actually build some special objects that don't have validation code on them. So if I go back and open up the Mergetool again in here, and I'll take a look at my version up here. If I go to advanced, I have this function in here where I can say export tables with stripped fields in here. And I can go in and say, yeah, I want all tables, and I want anything that is less than or until 49,000 or 99,000 and forward, that is Microsoft's range of tables in here. And then I can go in and say, okay, I'm going to export this one, and it's going to be and then I will say every field in the range from 14 million to 14,999,000. I want to take the code away on those ones, so I can actually then import. This again is going to create a text file for me, not one that I actually can use for a lot, because that will still have the issues about creating the fields. But there's one database where I actually can use this one in, and that's the LANM database where the objects already is in. So if I go here to the LANM SE database, I'm going to make a, oh, that was not the one, it was this one where I have everything in. I'm just, because I'm going to make some very special FOB files in here that actually is with all the codes removed in here. If I look at it, what are actually causing my problem here, up in payment terms, for example, it went in, and these two fields down here was the one that actually complained about it here. The other thing, when I tried to merge the code in, it was the code down here in one of these fields. It has a reference to another field in here that has not been added yet to the table, and that's why it actually gave me an error with this text down here, because it tried to compile the code in here. But if I go here and say, yeah, I have my special objects text file I created now, this one with the stripped tables. If I now look at the code in here in that field, the code is now gone. So that means these tables are really not intended to be used for anything, because they're completely useless. The code is removed and things like that one. But I can use each one for one single purpose, and that's to merge the field in. And as soon as the field is in my database, I can then use the text file I actually finished merging and use that one instead. So let's go export these ones. And I don't even need to compile them, and they probably won't compile, or this one, they probably will compile in this case here, but this one is, so this one, so, and then let's open up the database where I actually now want to include the merchant in here. So go to this one, that's my database where I want to build this solution in. And I can now go import some objects. I can't do it from text, but I can do it from this specialist strip tables. Now they all come up and say merge, something like that one, and that's all fine because I'm just going to have the fields added in there. So now I imported those ones, and these objects now are really trashed because there's no code in here. But I now have all my fields. I can now go in and say, okay, now I'm done. I can go select my output from my merge. The sales shipment header. Oh, what I ended up doing here is actually adding some Microsoft fields in now, because Microsoft ended up deleting some fields in here, and when I merged in the code, I added those fields back in here, and that's actually one of the problems. The sales shipment header down here. I think this field actually was not supposed to be in 2009 R2 in here, but it was added, and my license currently don't allow me to delete Microsoft fields in here. So I'm now actually in really a bind. I can't do anything in here. The only way I can get this one put together is actually if I add the field in the text file in here. So I would just go ahead and do that one to get around this problem in here. So let's export this one to 110. So I'll take a copy of this code down here. I'll go into my output of my merge in here and find table 110. And see that line of code in here is actually missing down here. So I'll put this one in and then save this one as another file name in here. And then let's see, I probably will have more of these ones that I have to deal with, but let's see which table it is. And here's another problem. I have something that I have probably not merged right, because I can see in here that this one looks, it looks for something, a control or something like that one, and it's not doing it right. It typically happens when those curly brackets don't match up in here. So it stopped at 51995. So I'll go back to Notepad in here. And if you view the status bar, you can actually see the line number in here. But there also is a Control G, take this one up, so 51995. And see this one in here, I had a command button and I ended up putting some fields in the wrong place in here. So now the curly brackets actually didn't match up any longer. And that's what causing this problem in here. See, this one is the end of that label, and then suddenly some other code appears down here. You can go remerge this one, but when you're at the point where you're just trying to import the objects, it may be better just to go modify it in here directly in the text file. So I'm just going to fix it here and then save this one again. And I'll go back and say, okay, can I now import it? If you have a lot of these ones now imported fine in here, if you have a lot of these errors in there, you can cut out the text file in smaller pieces and say, okay, I'm now done with the tables. Now let's deal with the forms and things like that one. But now I got everything in here, and if I go look at my country table up here, that's the one where I removed all the code, and because I now imported from text, of course I have all the code in here. So let's see how much actually will compile now. So if I take all the uncompiled objects, I can see the version list is right, it added the other tag behind it, my date and time is right in here, and I can go compile. Remember, this one is code that used to work in 5.0, and there's probably a few changes in 2009 R2 that make this one not working. So there's a few things in here that actually gave me a compile error, but out of my more than 100 objects, then it actually it's a pretty good approach here that I can get only 3 objects that actually fails in here. And let's take a look at what it is in here. It's in the order address. It looks like I maybe merged something wrong in the order address in here. That I actually, see, I forgot some fields in here in that one. So there's a few options in here, but let me go actually back to my merge tool and then redo that single object in here. So I already have everything merged in here. I can just bring up the merge one more time, and it won't show that object because it's already in here. But if I actually go in here to my objects and say it was 222, the ship to address, or it was an order address where I actually had problems with, let me just delete that one in the output. And then I can go back, select the right version in here, bring up the merge. And my old one was 5.0. My new one is 2009. And my output version is this one in here. And again, what should I default my manual merge to? I want Microsoft's codes. Microsoft's version list should come first. And then this one I want search, so they match my other ones. And then click OK in here. And now it goes through. It only shows those objects in here. And what went wrong actually was in here. At this point when I did that one, I didn't realize there actually was more code down here. So the only thing I did was I fixed the one with the email up here. But I didn't do the remaining part that was underneath here. So let's go do this fix with the email again up here. So I have to select these lines here. And then on my custom lines, select the line number. And I want that one after that one in here. And then I had to go do the trick here. Change it to insert mode here and replace all the spaces so I can get that code working properly in here. Oops. So that's the one piece. I got this one put in now. The other thing is all the new fields that I forgot down here. So I'm going to just go down and say, okay, all this one. I'm going to, on my custom line, select the line number, and it should come after this line down here. So now I actually got the code right in here. And now I can click OK. And here's another one. I have a new variables up here. So I'm just going to say from the custom line, insert them last, the new ones up here. And now it's running through the other objects, and I'm actually done in here. I don't want to replace the whole text file now. So as I actually go export here, I can go in and say, okay, I only want table 224 in here. And this one is just that one. This one is table 224. Now let's go back and import that file. So go down to this database here. I think I put that one in the wrong folder. I ended up in here. Yeah, let's just move that one. Okay, did I do something wrong in here? Let's go open up this text file. Oh, I've added a one space too much. This one needs to align these ones out here. So when I ended up editing this one, I ended up doing one space too much in here. So let's just save this one here. Normally use a second name because I can then go compare if necessary what I actually ended up having problems with. So, and also have to of course import the right file. Yeah, and see now I got the same problem because I overlaid them with the text file from before. So my merge of these special script objects in here were actually reversed out of that. So yeah, I want to select only my order address. And I want to merge the new ones into the existing objects. Okay, now I'm getting into a real bind here because I have validation code and things like that one. And didn't I? Okay, here it is. I'm going to re-import the original object from Microsoft in here. Okay, so now I can first add the field by importing that or merging that special script version in here, adding the fields in there, and then I can go in and say, now I should be able to actually import my table in here. It now imported fine. If I now look at the uncompiled ones, I actually have everything working in here. So now it looks like everything compiled fine. There will probably be issues with objects inside the unique range for each ship in here. But let's just export all this one in here. And I exported them as FOB because that's what I'm going to send to the customer. But I also want to export them as text. Oh, I think I actually just typed FOB. I didn't. Yes. Then I want to send them as text. And now I just want to go back to the Mergetool and actually run a compare and see that all my things actually looks like it worked in here. I'll go to the Mergetool and I'll go in here and say import an object file. And this one is very similar to something else. It's very similar to that one. So I'm actually going to select that one, but then I'll just go here and say, just change this one. And by selecting that one, it populated a lot of fields for me correctly down here. It's not based on this version, it's based on this version in here. I can say I only want a log in here right now. So I don't need to import all the objects that don't exist in Microsoft's version. So I'm saying I only want to import those ones. And then I want to compare it and delete the equal ones in here. By saying it must exist, you actually end up skipping a lot of objects and it will require a lot less traffic and inserts in your database. And the whole thing will run a lot faster. So it's now doing many things in a row. And my end result of this process is that I want to look at a log file, and the log file should be some way similar to the size of the log file I actually created for this version in here. So it's 1.1 megabyte up here. And if I get something that looks in that area, it probably is that I did everything right in here. So, but now it's importing them. Still has to run through the code for all these ones, but it don't has to commit them to the database. I was doing the compare of the objects. And it would take a minute or so, and then that finishes also. And then it will go ahead and ask what the file name should be for the log file, and I can just select that one and export it. So, of course, I have no pages or anything in here, so that's a whole issue I have to deal with to get this application moved in here. So it finished that one, and it's defaulted my file name to .log, and I'll go here and just click OK. And if I now go look in my folder, I have my log file. It's a little smaller than that one, but I'm not sure what options I actually selected in my log last time. Maybe I actually, when I imported this one here, it's okay, but the log is also, of course, so I can go in and read it and see all the changes in here and things like that one in here. So, but that basically finished the process of first importing the versions in here for merge, then running through the merge, and then all the steps that is actually required to build a database. And this one is, as you saw, it can be complex. You can have errors. You can have different ways of solving them, both by remerging, as I did with one table, but also just editing in the text file actually directly.